Robert. Okay, let's go over the pardons. On his way out the door, Sunday night, we go to bed. No pardons yet. You called it to a T. He's got to give Jim Biden every last minute of criminality to make whatever money he's going to make before they make no more money for the rest of their lives through the Biden crime syndicate. At the inauguration, I mean, I think he had it drafted before and they just released it. Pardons his brother, his aunt, his sister-in-law. I don't know, his entire Biden family.
The whole family. When you're pardoning a crime family, you really do need to pardon all of them.
I mean, so I look at that. What do you make of it? We called it. We had said it for a long time. If you had placed any bets, my goodness, the preemptive pardon was
there were some people that, if the people that watch the show or followed us, I mean, because I got emails and texts and other things like this. There are people who made 20x rate of return on a single day because whether Jim Biden would be pardoned fell to 5% right before it was announced. So there are people that like made $1,000, $20,000, more money. It was like those people. I was getting all these thanks, and I was like, yeah, well, I think somebody put it at sportspicks.locals.com where I put up various picks on sporting events and political events. Going to have recommended bets even on the Oscars this year coming because they're available at Kalshi now. You can bet on the Oscars at Kalshi. And I was debriefing my Park Commie niece and nephews about because they like films and whatnot, and really good, very, very smart critics and whatnot. I was going through getting all their crib notes, this film's got this. All right, that's good. And I'll give you one little piece of advice to everybody out there is Ricky Gervais once advised, when betting on Oscars in Hollywood, bet on the Jew. Don't bet against the Jew. And always bet on the Holocaust film. The Holocaust films almost always overachieve.
I want to make a politically incorrect joke, Robert. You might have no choice but to bet on the Jew, depending on what the option. Okay, bada bing, bada boom. Now I hear my dad. David, what are you doing? Yeah, the Oscars are there's politics involved, which can actually it can maximize certain odds in terms of predictions.
Well, and we also nailed that he would be considering Fauci and Milley. And the big one, Liz Cheney and January 6th committee. We said, don't worry, before it's all said and done. Well, so the way somebody put it at Sports Picks is, if crime is going to pay, can't we at least get a piece of it?
I feel bad for everybody who sold off their Jim Biden, because when he pardoned, he made this, a slew of pardons, and Jim hadn't been mentioned, and I think everyone just panicked and said, "Oh, I'm going to cut my losses." There was a good opportunity to buy in at Jim. I just wish I had bought 10,000.
The J6 committee, and then he's pardoning Milley. He even pardoned Milley, by the way, under the military code, so that you can't even prosecute him under the military code. Pardon Anthony Fauci. There was no way he was leaving out the real criminals, his own family. It was just about when he was going to publish that. And again, you never know when the money's good. You got to wait for the checks to clear. You know what I mean? I mean, you're waiting the last possible minute to get every last little crime in right before you can get pardoned. I thought he would do like Liz Cheney and Kinzinger. I didn't think he would do like low-level staff members of the committee.
Sorry. I know. I remember what you said now. That you were less gung-ho on pardoning the judiciary, which he didn't pardon, but he pardoned the medical tyrants. So he pardoned Fauci, pardoned Milley, but didn't pardon Judge Juan Marchand.
Didn't pardon,
Whitney Willis.
Jack Smith. And I mentioned that he was he'd been making clear to everybody, he thought he blames Garland, ironically. He's like, Garland, you prosecuted my family too quickly. And you pardoned and you prosecuted Trump too belatedly. And so that's why he's like, I'm not giving any of you guys pardons. You guys didn't deliver. So he doesn't. So he was unhappy with it. And that's what you saw reflected in it and who he pardoned and who he didn't. But what's funny was watching normie Democrats be shocked. All the people that said Trump wouldn't pardon January 6ers because that's an admission of guilt. And all of a sudden, well, what does that mean for Anthony Fauci then, boys and girls? Why did it go back to 2014? What? Well, what's significant about 2014?
April 2014 is when Hunter Biden signed on with Burisma. April 2014, people.
And right at the same time, that's when Fauci and Milley are getting pardons. If you had any doubt whether Ukraine was a coordinated deep state conspiracy, Biden's pardons ended that doubt. If you had any doubt whether COVID was at least in part a global conspiracy against President Trump and our freedoms and liberties, those pardons also ended that doubt. Because what's significant about 2014 is the Biden's family's investment and involvement in Ukraine and the biolabs in Ukraine and the coup in Ukraine that facilitated those biolabs' further development, in which clearly both Milley and Fauci were complicit. Otherwise, you don't need that 2014 date of the pardons.
Robert, I have to pull it up and just make sure my DMs are not showing in this tweet here. Adam Schiff, he actually said this. Pam Bondi last week on pardons for January 6 offenders said, quote, I will look at every case on a case-by-case basis. Donald Trump yesterday, full pardons. No review, no accountability, nothing. And I said, you literally got a presidential pardon yesterday, you incorrigible idiot. I didn't want to get into the too many. Pam Bondi's also not attorney general yet, you dumbass. But this guy faults Trump for his blanket pardons because they didn't go case by case, but I think they went case by case. And after a certain trend, you notice, okay, done, we're done.
I think the good news is, our side of the argument finally won out with Trump, which was there was a bunch of people saying, delay it, do individual review, let the cases go forward, only pardon convicts, only pardon people that are convicted, let those other cases go forward and see what happens, or only pardon people that had nonviolent charges, only, et cetera. And instead, he's like, this is crap. Well, everything about those cases is crap. And I'm pardoning or commuting everybody. And even then, he had to still send marshals and other people out to make sure they got out, because these corrupt hacks in the District of Corruption were trying to lock him up. There's still several people that are still locked up that should be released in some hellhole in Kentucky for some reason. And so it showed that he absolutely made the right decision, because they would have continued to torture these people otherwise. What I do love is here's where Trump has been good, and here's what maybe I'll even give a credit to Susie Wiles, that in terms of who they're staffing their second level positions with, that's been really good. Now, I have reason to believe that's other people other than Susie Wiles and the Trump team, but I'll put that aside for the moment. And so, like, the guy who put newly in charge of DC is acting chief. People put in an acting chief at FBI, acting chief at DOJ in different key positions. These are true people who understand the presidential election, understand what the American people demanded, understand what the rule of law requires, understand what the Constitution compels, and consequently, they've been taking real proactive actions. So when a rogue DC judge, another foreigner, because that was Barack Obama's favorite judicial appointees, not born in America, woohoo! Come from commies overseas, woohoo! That was his favorite nominee. That was check, you get nominated to a federal bench. And this is the judge who was even born in India. People talk about birthright citizenship. Can we at least have native birthright requirements for being on a federal bench? Just, my own view. This judge was going to order a whole bunch of people. You can't come into D.C. without my permission. I mean, this gives you an idea for the arrogance of these judges that think they're beyond the law, that think they're beyond the American people, beyond the elected president of the United States. And luckily, the U.S. attorney came in, the newly appointed smart one, said, Judge, actually, you can't do that, because the nature of both President Trump's commutations and pardons, whichever one were given, takes away all your power to control them in the future. And credit to that. You don't see somebody have the cojones to stand up to a federal judge like that. So so that was promising. We nailed it with who Trump would pardon. But there were a bunch of people that were all at me. Barnes, you said he pardoned Ulbricht. Why hasn't he pardoned Ulbricht yet? Where's the pardon? Maybe he lied to us again. Maybe he took us for a ride. And I was like, I guarantee you, by the end of the week, Ross Ulbricht will be pardoned or have his sentence commuted. And that's exactly, and of course, 24 hours later, thankfully, Trump proved me correct and pardoned rightly Ross Ulbricht. I saw some Michael Knowles, God bless you, bro. But Kate, why is it you get so much stuff wrong? I mean, he's like raw milk. He couldn't get that right. And then he's like, I can't like this pardon of Ross Ulbricht. This is a bad indicator of law and order. Ross Ulbricht's case was crap from beginning to end. A buddy of mine, who's, by the way, a hardcore anti-Trumper, Joshua Dratel, we got into a long debate over it. He thought the Nazis were coming. Like, Josh, the Nazis are not coming. But his whole case was bogus. All right, this was a case where they blamed him for everything related to Silk Road. Well, first of all, if you're to blame for anything anybody uses your product for, then every phone company executive belongs in prison. Every internet executive belongs in prison. Everybody who handles the mail belongs in prison. FedEx belongs in prison. All kinds of tools and techniques are utilized.
Well, I went down the Ulbricht, sounds really gross, down the rabbit hole last week just to make sure I understood the situation and refresh my memory. They accused him of at some point of murder for hire, but never pressed any charges.
The early allegation. See, what it is, they wanted the courts on their side, the grand jury on their side, the public on their side. And like, how do we take this completely novel theory? Because when you're looking for lawfare, look for certain common denominators. Look for a novel theory of law. In other words, that this theory of criminal law has never been utilized before or rarely utilized before. Look for manipulation of venue in terms of where is the grand jury, where is the jury, where is the trial jury, where is the judicial pool from, which prosecutors are being brought in, which law enforcement officers are being brought in. See if there's something unusual about the location of the case. Then look for how the case was prosecuted. Were there unusual issues of discovery, unusual issues of government malfeasance or misconduct in the development or presentation of evidence? And if you look for those things, then look for disparate and unusual punishments and sentences. That's what every single January 6th case had. Every single one had some sort of novel legal theory, selective prosecution involved. Every single one had government misconduct and malfeasance involved. Every single one had jury and grand jury and venue abuse with the judicial pool involved. But the fact is also present in Ross Ulbricht's case.
In Ulbricht's case, Robert, was the questionable procurement of evidence when the FBI stole his computer before he could close it and then accessed information that would have otherwise been encrypted after staging a fight in a library?
The FBI was bragging about this case, and I was going to respond, and I was like, why don't you include in your bragging how your own agents and IRS agents stole money, used this case to steal from Ross Ulbricht, steal from others. I'm talking stealing millions of dollars. You had massive fraud and criminality involved with the leading investigative officers. This was admitted by the government that later had to prosecute those officers. I was like, how in the world is Ross Ulbricht still in prison when the officers who led the case against him are also going to prison because of their criminality against Ulbricht?
I remembered. I forgot I had tweeted out. On the Silk Road, a darknet site run by American cybercriminal. This was before the pardon. This is the FBI tweeting out political campaigning. And I said, Trump promised him a pardon. Cash will look into what you guys did in the case. I'd be nervous as well. It's when the FBI is taking to social media to politic around an upcoming pardon, you know they did something unsavory, unbecoming.
Absolutely. And then, of course, which jurisdiction prosecuted Ross Ulbricht? The Southern District of New York.
Only one I was going to guess.
Southern District of New York. Was that the grounds? They didn't arrest him in the Southern District of New York. So grand jury abuse, trial jury abuse, judicial selection abuse, also all present in the Ross Ulbricht cases. So great pardon commutation there. I'm glad Trump got credit to Senator Hawley, and Senator Paul, who raised attention to the pro-life protesters who had also been wrongfully prosecuted and ordered dismissals and pardons in those cases. That was great to see. The trans whistleblower case out of Texas, credit again, Senator Hawley and others, Senator Paul and others, who elevated that case to Trump's attention, and Trump pardoned them as well. Now, by the way, the fact that it weren't all included initially told me there's some weaknesses and limitations that need to be strengthened to Trump's pardon team. Right? Everybody, they all should have been pardoned right away.
Well, but how about
political and tactical?
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Impression, Trump was truly unaware of the importance of those cases beyond January 6th.
That was my Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. That was my hypothesizing. Also, is that they make for good news cycles, good sound bites, good replenishment of vigor. And so I was wondering if maybe he's holding off on a Roger Ver. I got to ask you the question just because I'm following the markets, and he just tanked overnight. Despite any news.
So Elon Musk puts out a tweet, an X, I guess, whatever we call it now, saying that Roger Ver doesn't have U.S. citizenship, and so he doesn't deserve a pardon. That's why the betting markets nosedive.
But Elon was asking, he was pushing for a pardon of.
He was the week before. So that's what shocked people. So now here's what it is. But there's a couple of course, the key with Roger Ver, there's a motion to dismiss hearing pending in February. Just have an independent, smart counsel review that. Have someone like Alan Dershowitz review it. Dershowitz would come to the conclusion that all the charges should be dismissed against Roger Ver because of what do we got? What are we looking for? We're looking for lawfare. What do you find when you're looking for lawfare? Novel interpretations or applications of criminal law, manipulation of jury pools, government malfeasance, and misconduct. You're looking for that trilogy, the holy trilogy of corrupt lawfare, all present in the case of Roger Ver. They're taking an unconstitutional exit tax, a novel interpretation of Bitcoin, combining the two of them to try to put Roger Ver in prison for 109 years over a tax dispute that they failed and refused to even go through the civil process with concerning Roger Ver. And go ahead.
I won't play the whole thing. He put out a video earlier today.
My name is Roger Ver. I was the first person in the entire world to start investing in the Bitcoin ecosystem. I was born an American. I am an American, and I will die as an American. And it's those American ideals that made me so excited about Bitcoin.
Let me pause there. I don't need to play the whole thing. I'll share it with you. It's basically a public request to Trump. You don't need to be a citizen to get a pardon. I mean, if he ever wants to travel.
Obviously not. So the story of Roger Ver was a long time, as he said, born in the U.S., identifies as an American, will always consider himself an American. But when he exposed ATF corruption in Ruby Ridge, and especially Waco during his young political aspirations when he was a very young man, they responded, the ATF, by criminally prosecuting him for how he had sent fireworks through the mail. Fireworks through the mail landed Roger Ver in federal prison. That's when Roger realized, wow, we've got a very corrupt legal system in America. So he is loyal to the American citizenry. He's loyal to the American people. He's loyal to the American Constitution. He's not going to be loyal to a corrupt deep state trying to destroy America. He realizes what's going on, invests heavily in Bitcoin, becomes known as Bitcoin Jesus because he's such an advocate for financial freedom. How do we give power to you anywhere in the world where you don't have to depend on the permission of central banks, central governments, and central planners for your own livelihood, for your own freedom? Well, as Satoshi put out in his 2008 paper, Bitcoin provided that opportunity, that option, that possibility. Now, this is different than all the kids that are bad Bitcoin maximalists who all they care about is its speculative value and lining their pockets. Roger Ver is called Bitcoin Jesus for a second reason. First reason is because of how much he advocated for it. The second reason, because he advocated for the most pure form of it. And that was financial freedom. Unlock financial freedom all around the world. Don't let them use currencies and banking systems to control and coerce our conduct anywhere in the world. So he realizes the U.S. is not a safe and reliable place because of its corrupt political class, not because he had any disagreement with the American people, who he continued to advocate for and advance. He helped make it possible for Ross Ulbricht to have a legal defense or a defense in the court of public opinion. He has quietly done that in many cases. So he's been behind the scenes. He's put his money where his mouth is over and over and over again in supporting financial freedom and supporting American freedom and supporting our Constitution against our corrupt political class, including the prosecutors and the FBI and the Justice Department. Because they realize, okay, this is all a bunch of, they're going to come. He realizes, okay, I see what they're trying to do to Bitcoin. They're trying to co-opt it, as he put it in his book, hijack Bitcoin, so that it doesn't have its maximum financial freedom capacity, and that the intelligence apparatus can use it for its own nefarious purposes. He realizes, okay, I got to speak out about this. I've been Bitcoin Jesus. That's how people think of me as. I can't abandon this cause. I can't abandon the people who care about this cause just because I'm now financially successful from my Bitcoin and other investments. But he realized if I do, I know what happened the last time I did this, when I was just a 20-year-old kid. And I said, man, that ATF probably shouldn't be burning down buildings with Americans in it and burning little kids alive. Maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe that's not an appropriate role for ATF. And suddenly I'm in a federal prison for an extra year because they don't like how I mailed fireworks. They're going to probably do something like that to me again. Because now he's going to go up against not just the political class, not just an agency like the ATF, but he's going to be going up the scale in those three-letter agencies. He's going to be talking about the DOJ. He's going to be talking about the FBI. And at the top, he's going to be talking about the CIA and MI6 and others. So he's like, okay, if I expose what the intelligence apparatus is trying to do here, they're probably going to come for me in some capacity.